GM. Okay, let's do 1, 2, 3. GM. I think we have to do stronger. 1, 2, 3. GM. Good. My name is Stani. I'm the founder of Aave. It's a team behind of Aave protocol, and that is a DeFi protocol for liquidity. And more recently, we launched a Go stablecoin, and also the founder of Lens protocol. So Lens is a Web3 social layer. So anyone who already is on Lens and has a profile, actually, how many of you have a Lens profile? Oh, okay. So now, so you want to know all the alpha. So how many of you have a Lens profile and has minted Go? That's pretty okay. Okay, who has a Lens profile, has minted Go, and has been on a Aave? That's pretty good. That's pretty good. We have a thing going on across the Lens protocol. So across different applications, there's a hashtag Summer of Lens. So as a millennial, I think hashtag has a lot of powerful network effect, especially in events like ETC, where the community comes together. So if you're touching grass here somewhere in Paris, post a picture, maybe something interesting will happen. Something fascinating is that the idea of decentralized social media and Lens kind of took off here at ETC. So I've been participating here for a few years now, talking a lot about decentralized finance, the Aave ecosystem, and more recently also Web3 social. And back in 2001, there was a lot of excitement about what if we start to actually decentralize the social media networks that we have, and what could happen if we bring the concept of ownership to the users. 2021, I think Jack was saying that he wants to build a social network on Bitcoin, and we were joking about and trolling that we're going to build one on Ethereum. And Vitalik had an interesting talk about why social media could be decentralized and how it could actually help. And year afterwards, last ETC, we were actually talking about and presenting Lens protocol, so something that we were building for a year and published, and learned a lot during the process. I've been also quite busy recently, so I just became a father. So, and that's actually baby on chain. So if you want to follow bear.lens. So a lot of things has been happening for me personally and over the years, and I'm happy to share everything that I pretty much do because we're a community. Something we actually during the path we learned a lot from the Ethereum community. So I started building on smart contracts with our team back in 2017 early. It was a small community, but something that is fascinating is that there's so many ideas here, and when you build in public, openly, you get a lot of community contributions, and you can actually build better infrastructure, better products, and everything we were building on Lens, we tried to take a lot of inspiration of how networks work, especially the Ethereum network. So the way we see is that Ethereum network is a network where we all belong to and a community. So within Ethereum, we have different kinds of choices. So we can choose what kind of protocols we are using. We have the freedom of moving from one protocol to another. We have the freedom and choice of what kind of assets we, for example, own. And together, we're a community. But Ethereum is also a shared network. And I think this is very important learning for our team is that we see Ethereum as social. So it's a place where we are constantly interacting. Same goes for example, internet. So when we look at Ethereum and over the past few years, we see different kinds of actually events where more daily active users are on the Ethereum network for different kinds of social events. So I don't know if anyone remembers a few years back when everyone was minting on Ethereum CryptoKitties. Who remembers these days? Okay, so that's a social event. If you remember the DeFi summer, does anyone remember DeFi? Okay, that's a social event. It's to the NFT summer, and all these different kinds of events and the L2 craze. So like, they're a social event. They're not necessarily reflecting the same social behavior you would have, for example, in TikTok or Twitter, but you discover these Ethereum-based social events through the kind of current Web2 social networks or through on-chain data. So what we understood quite a lot, especially recently with Threads launching and within 5 days reaching 100 million users, we kind of like saw the idea of portability and how much actually provides value, and it doesn't really exist in a good shape and form in Web3 social, except very recently where the Instagram users were able to create an account on Threads, and in simple, by doing that, Threads achieved 100 million users in just 5 days because they actually were doing this in a shared social network. So they enabled portability, and that's pretty strange because normally in Web2 social networks, you kind of want to keep things closed and keep the interactions inside of it. Partly it's quite true for Threads too, because if you think about it, what actually changed with Threads by opening up a bit more the actually portability, or for example, different social platforms sharing revenue with the creators. In my opinion, pretty much nothing. So the way I see it is that portability and these networks and the ownership aspect still happens within those platforms. And that's where kind of like the difference between platforms and protocols come into place. And there is a lot of progression in social media, and some of the progression is actually good. I personally think that with Twitter, for example, what we've seen there happening and the all different kinds of Twitter clones, they actually kind of like decentralize the landscape a bit, at least for the user. But essentially, they all kind of like build in the same infrastructure, which is really lacking giving the rights for the users. And what it means is that the people are the product of these networks because we give all the attention and all the data, and we get little back. There is no ownership for anyone from user perspective. There's no really power, so you can't really make a big difference or affect in changes of these platforms. And you don't have a choice. And this choice aspect is very important because if you don't have choice, you don't really have an ownership, because if you can't actually go from one place to another, it's going to be very hard to prove your ownership. But you're bringing the value. So we as the users, we're providing the creativity, we're establishing the connections, the algorithms, and the data. But still, it's the same exact algorithm that is running over the internet now. I have this interesting concept I call the liquid citizen test. I've been talking about this earlier multiple times. It's still a working piece, so don't build your thesis yet around this idea. But the idea is very interesting. So the way I see it is that what liquid networks are and what we are liquid citizens. So we're able to go from one network to another without any kind of foregoing of your social capital or ownership. So just as an example is that at some point in Web3, this new internet that we are here building and excited about, we will see a lot of protocols that will look like the same. They might be even forks of each other. And this is already happening, for example, in decentralized finance. There's little effort for users to actually switch from one protocol to another, move themselves from one community to support another community. And this is a wild concept for ownership, because if you don't have this ability to move, then you don't really have the ownership, because you're stuck in a community or in a network. So when you have this movability, you are a liquid citizen. Today in Web 2, you basically can't really leave yourself from the platforms. And if you do, if you really decide to actually leave, you become a refugee. So you leave everything behind, your followers, your creations, and every artifact that you created or interacted with. And that basically means that we, the people, we are the network. And these platforms exist because we engage with them and we create the content, but internet doesn't really reflect that and doesn't give that ownership to the users. And that's why we have to take back the open internet. It's quite interesting because internet started as a decentralized network and later became more centralized for the sake of improving usability, user experience. And today, internet is pretty much owned by big tech and bigger companies, but it can be actually more equitable and have a positive sum game for the users. And the more open networks we're building, the more choice we give to the users. So if you're building something in Web3 or in social in the kind of like an aim that you want to give as much as possible to the users and enable choice, the more innovation we see. And I think this is a very valuable, because when you have to choose whether you build open source or something else, that open source flywheel creates that innovation and creates those interesting use cases. And effectively, we will have an internet that actually benefits all. And people-powered social networks, where you have actually a saying how the network will evolve in the future, and because you have because you are a liquid citizen, it means that you can actually affect into changes by actually switching networks in between, switching experiences, and everything will be built around you because you create the network. And you have countless of possibilities what you can actually do and what you can build as well as a developer. And something we figured out that we don't really have all the answers, what we think about where social media goes. We understand that internet is social today. There's 5 billion users online and an almost equal amount of social media users. But what we understand is that if we build this openly in a way where everyone can contribute, for example, we recently launched LIPS, which is Lens Improvement Proposal, so anyone can actually come and contribute ideas. We can build something that aligns with everyone's values and also can create different kinds of communities. And most importantly, we build a protocol. So Lens is a protocol that enables the ownership and these different use cases to be a shared network. So the same way as Ethereum works as a shared network, Lens is about not only about sharing the benefits, but also reusing existing infrastructure, innovation, and experiences that we have built. And that should help also the cultural issues, because if you can build and innovate on existing networks, you reduce the cultural issue. So if you can leverage the users that are already in the ecosystem by building some interesting experience, that helps to add value to the whole ecosystem and everyone benefits. And most importantly is that to get more adoption, to actually get Web3 and Web3 social to the next level, we have to build great social experiences. Building a protocol isn't enough. we have to actually build experiences. We have to be humble. We have to actually acknowledge that if we want people to use outside of this conference, Lens or any Web3 public goods, we have to build extremely good experiences, and we need more people that have that experience and excitement to build. But further ado, I want to introduce now the Lens protocol v2. So we've been building this for the past year now, and Lens protocol v2 is basically, we introduced a lot of the learnings that we had and the feedback that we got from the community over the past year. And it's been such an exciting time to actually build something as a social protocol. So what's new? There's 3 different areas we were focusing. Basically getting things right that we got wrong. And I would say that maybe half of the things we got wrong and half we got right. One important thing is the openness and composability, extending Lens protocol to support everything that there is in Web3 on a shared network, including shared benefits. So how do we actually include everyone into the value chain? And trust and safety. So if we're building this together, how we can actually build safely in a way where it's a nice place for everyone. So what happened? We basically rewrote the whole code base. We wanted to focus quite a lot into the developer experience, creating a lot of open design space so developers have more choice. Two-way integration, so how can Lens actually benefit the existing and future protocols in Web3, and also expand more of the use cases and enable a good feedback loop for a monetization layer. So one of the main features that we have that I'm personally super excited about is a feature called Open Actions. So Open Actions enables users to perform any external actions, smart contract-based actions, directly on Lens publication. So what it actually means is that we're extending the functionality of Lens, but also introducing the idea of that whatever you build in Web3, you can bring that innovation into Lens and enable that directly in a post that the user creates. And it enables the idea also of bringing your own smart contracts. So if you're a creator and you want to mint, for example, with Manifold, OpenSea, Zora, or whatever that platform is, Sound XYZ, you can come and do that on Lens, and it's more composable now as well. And the idea here is to make the experience more native, so you can actually do this functionality directly through Lens and support all these protocols. And here's how currently the Lens actions work, the publication actions. So you can now create content, whether it's music, whether it's some interesting discussion, and you have commenting, mirroring, and the Web3 native collect feature. But in the future, now with Lens v2, you can extend to any kind of action there might be. So an example could be that you can create a post and add a mint button that mints an OpenSea NFT, let's say on Polygon, or minting through an Oracle Sound XYZ NFT on Ethereum. Can be to buy an NFT ticket, joining a waitlist, joining a DAO, or anything you can actually imagine donating through Gitcoin. So these open actions are pretty much an open-ended design space to integrate your innovation into Lens. And you can even buy, for example, you can create a post of your land in Sandbox and describe that land that you have and the history and what you have done previously, and allow other users on the protocol to actually buy that land or donate to public goods through Gitcoin with quadratic funding. It can be even financial actions such as, for example, swap an asset on Uniswap or borrow Go from the Aave protocol. Anything that is on a shared network can be integrated. And we really want to see interesting use cases. We want to see what you can actually build with this feature and how far you can actually go. And to get an open action into distribution across all the Lens clients, you can create a Lens improvement proposal on an action you might have that can be integrated into the whole Lens code-based library and used by all these applications that are supporting Lens as a social layer. Another interesting feature we have is the collective value share. So we wanted to improve the value sharing of all the artifacts that are created on Lens. And the way we basically did it is we wanted to ensure that Lens as an ecosystem has a good feedback loop on value sharing. So everyone shares whatever they create and is incentivized to distribute content, for example, and create content and consume content as well. And what it means is that if you have a interesting content and you create something, different applications that are showing and distributing the content, the algorithms, even whoever is actually contributing to your content, they can all be in the same value loop. So you can pass any Lens profile to share revenue across the whole content supply chain, meaning that if you build an exciting algorithm, you can use that algorithm and reward it to distribute your content to new user bases. Just taking a concrete example is that you can create a content in a music NFT platform called Riff, and that same content can be surfaced via algorithm in Orb and then collected eventually on Butterfly. And all of the actors and entities in this value loop can actually benefit from that monetization. And hopefully this creates interesting mechanisms and new ways and design space for users and creators to create interesting content, are incentivized to create new open public algorithms and exciting experiences as well. We have upgraded profiles now, so we did quite a lot of work on the profile architecture that we have. And one of the key things we have is a concept called open namespaces. So we changed the way that the Lens profiles are working now. So previously you can own a profile that is tokenized as an NFT, and that profile has a handle that you minted during a genesis, for example. Now the profiles are separated from, the handles are separated from the profiles, and the profiles are NFTs, and also the handles are NFTs. That creates an open namespace that you can actually not only change your handle to something else, you can have multiple handles per profile, so you can actually reconstruct your identity. But also, it gives more power if you're using ENS, because you can create a Lens profile and simply already attach an ENS name that you might own. And you can do more with ENS through Lens ecosystem. And this creates foundations to namespace modules to actually innovate and create interesting programmability with namespaces. And also NFTs can have a profile. So we focus quite a lot on empowering the ERC 6551 standard. So basically how we can actually increase and enable the value accrual instead of an address, or let's say instead of a wallet address directly to the actual Lens profile NFT or the NFT that is holding Lens profile. So effectively, when an NFT, like this very handsome CryptoKitty, can have a profile, it actually enables voice as well. So you can follow other NFTs with your NFT. You can talk, create content through your NFT, and create additional value. It's an interesting example, but we're super excited to see how this feature is going to be used in the future. But also, it enables, the same way as the namespaces, enables actually a access and keys to different kinds of communities that can be created across the Lens ecosystem. We have a new follow architecture. So previously, follows were minted as NFTs. And we decided that that isn't necessarily the best way to have the follow relationship. So all the follows are happening now from one profile to another. And the tokenization is still available if you want to preserve economical rights. So if you follow someone that is somehow a valuable connection to you or publicly, you can still create that tokenization and use the economical rights if you want to use an NFT as a collateral or some other future use cases. Another feature that is very valuable, and this is probably asked the most, is the profile manager. And I really wish that this was implemented in the day one, but here it is. So what it means is that you can actually create a profile manager and grant different kinds of rights to different addresses and lens profiles. So these rights are non-economical, basically social actions. That can be, for example, posting, can be, for example, mirroring. So if you have a brand and maybe you have an intern that you want only to post in certain hours and not in the late hours, you can even set that kind of a time limit. But what it enables is that as a community, you can start managing a lens profile, which is very cool because it enables DAOs to manage effectively their profiles and also multisigs. One interesting idea towards the profile manager is that you can store your profile safely in a cold storage and delegate the actual social actions into a wallet that you use day-to-day basis. But also what it allows you to do is that you can delegate the social actions into an application where you can create an experience where you don't have to sign any transaction in the future. So no MetaMask pop-ups, no gasless and signless transactions, but also taking it to the next level. Yeah, we have also a couple of interesting safety features. On-chain blocking is interesting. So obviously you can block different users and do that on a more kind of like a client level, application level. But you can also do that on-chain, which means that a profile can't interact with your profile. We also improved quite a lot the profile safety. So recently with LIP4, we introduced the Profile Guardian, and I think this is very cool. So we've seen a lot of phishing attacks recently where users are losing their NFTs, and because this particular user here had the Profile Guardian set by default on, as most of the users now, everything else was drained from the wallet except the lens profile, which is quite amazing. And I really hope that this is an innovation that could actually be taken across the NFT ecosystem as well. And we already introduced that a bit earlier because we saw it as a concern. Yeah, so basically the whole summary is here. We implemented some other things like the ERC 1271, so smart contracts can sign as well, makes it a bit more easier. Metadata v3, that's outside of the protocol, but also interesting standard I recommend to look, so you can create spaces across different applications, other type of content. Quote publications are now standardized as well, so I hope I don't forget anything, but if I do, you can go to the GitHub and look at the code and see what is all there. And most importantly, you can actually contribute in public, and the code should be public now as we speak. And we have a Code Arena public Code Arena contest as well, where anyone can participate and find different kind of security aspects and try to figure out and read the code and participate. So that starts also today at 8 p.m. if you want to contribute and find anything and get rewards for that. Yeah, so if you want to get into the waitlist, so Lens is still beta, so we are going to run Lens protocol completely publicly open, so anyone can create a profile in the future, and it's going to be fully accessible. And now I think we're going to release a testnet pretty soon, and meanwhile you can join a waitlist either for V1 or later for V2. So if you scan this QR code, hopefully it works. I don't know I think it works. And there's also one of the clients that are building on top of Lens, or they actually created ETC community. So if you already have a Lens profile, and if you have Orb or not, you can download it. And with this QR code, you can actually join the Orb ETC community and share different kinds of news and things with the ETC hashtag. Yeah, basically that's it. And I would like to thank ETC, the whole organization, Bettina, and our team for everything they've done. It's been an incredible ride, and it's still going to be a long ride. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to come to talk so much. Thank you.